Welcome to the weekly News Roundup. In the latest release of hostages as part of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal, 3 hostages were released in Gaza. Eli Sharabi, Ohad Ben Ami, and Or Levi were freed in front of a crowd of heavily armed fighters. Both 56-year-old Mr. Ben Ami and 52-year-old Mr. Sharabi were taken from Kibbutz Be'eri during the 7th October attack. 34-year-old Mr. Levi was abducted from the Nova Music Festival, which he was attending with his wife Ainav. Mr. Sharabi's wife Liane Sharabi and their children, 16-year-old Noya and 13-year-old Yahiel, were killed in the 7th October attack. His brother Yossi Sharabi was taken hostage with him. Yossi has since been confirmed dead and Hamas is holding his body. The IDF has said he was likely killed as a result of an Israeli military strike. Mr. Sharabi's brother-in-law, Stephen Brisley, said he feared Mr. Sharabi may not be aware of their deaths. Gyula Levi, the mother of Or Levi, says it is not clear if he knows that his wife Ainav was killed during the Nova Festival on October 7, 2023. We bring you this report.
For the Israeli hostages freed on Saturday, the suffering did not end when Hamas militants paraded their frail and gaunt figures on a stage in Gaza ahead of their release to the Red Cross. Only later, after the freed men arrived back in Israel, would 2 of them discover that some of the loved ones they had hoped to see again were already dead. During their stage-managed appearance at the hands of Hamas militants, one of the Israeli hostages, Eli Sharabi, told the crowd that he hoped to see his wife Liane and daughters Noya and Yahiel. All 3 were killed in Kibbutz Be'eri during the Hamas-led attack on southern Israel on October 7th, but it was only on his return to Israel that Sharabi learned their fate, according to the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. Sharabi did appear to know, however, that his brother Yossi, who was also taken hostage by Hamas, had subsequently died in Gaza, where his body remains, according to the Israeli military. Both men and their families had lived at the kibbutz, where more than 100 people were killed during the October 7 attacks. Or Levi, another of the hostages released Saturday, had suspected that his wife Ainav had died but had not known for sure as he had no access to media during his time in captivity, his mother Gyula Levi said. 34-year-old Levi was attending the Nova Music Festival with his wife on October 7 when he was kidnapped. His wife, Ainav, was killed in the attack. Following his release on Saturday, Levi's mother said he had asked about his wife while in Sheba Hospital, where he was reunited with family members. His brother Michael said the hardest blow was when Or discovered that Ainav, the love of his life, was murdered on that terrible day. For 491 days he held on to the hope that he would return to her. While in the hospital, Levi reunited with his son Almog, who was only 2 years old when his father was taken hostage. The father and son came together as if nothing had happened, Gyula said. Levi's family issued a statement following his release, celebrating his return, while also mourning the death of Ainav. Her loss has left an enormous void in all our hearts, they said. Released hostage Ohad Ben Ami reunited with his wife Raz and brother Kobi at an army facility near the Gaza border, footage shows. Ben Ami's daughters Yuli, Natalie and Ella and his mother Esther were waiting for Ohad at a hospital in central Israel. After 491 days in captivity, Ben Ami reunited with his wife Raz and daughters, joking about his drastic weight loss. He said, "I left XXL size and came back a medium size." As his daughters embraced him, one of them, Natalie, who had enlisted in the IDF after her father was taken hostage, revealed the news to him for the first time, leaving him visibly stunned. "Dad, I'm a commander in a military welfare course, she told him. Did mom even allow you to enlist? He asked. Eventually, Ben-Ami smiled and told Natalie, I'm proud of you. Proud that you didn't listen to your mother. She immediately shouted back, I knew it. The scenes from Saturday's hostage handover have drawn condemnation from Israel, who called the men's appearances shocking, with a group representing the families of hostages saying that it was horrified by the visible physical and mental condition of the men. Levi, who was released as he was considered a humanitarian case, appeared particularly frail. Following the handover, the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, said in a statement that it is increasingly concerned about the conditions surrounding release operations and urged all parties to ensure that further releases are dignified and private.
In other news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi travelled to Paris, France as part of the AI Action Summit, which was co-chaired by PM Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron. While in France, Mr. Modi also travelled to Marseille in southern France, where he inaugurated a new Consulate General of India. President Emmanuel Macron was also there with him. The leaders had a series of engagements, including an unexpected visit to the Mazar-Guez War Cemetery to honour the sacrifice of Indian soldiers who died fighting in the World Wars. Prime Minister Modi is preparing for additional tariff cuts ahead of a meeting with US President Donald Trump in Washington, which could boost American exports to India and also avoid a potential trade war. Earlier, PM Modi and US Vice President J.D. Vance discussed India investing in US nuclear technology. The two men met in France, where they were both attending the AI Action Summit, co-chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron. We bring you this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the French city of Marseille on Wednesday. This was the last day of his 3-day visit to France, where he inaugurated the second Indian consulate in the country after the embassy in Paris. He was welcomed in Paris on February 10th by an encouraging turnout of the Indian community. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with world leaders on Tuesday in Paris, which was also attended by US Second Lady Usha Vance, who is of Indian descent, covered topics of mutual interest, including how the United States can assist India in diversifying its energy sourcing through investments in clean, reliable US nuclear technology. US President Donald Trump's administration is prioritizing relations with India and recognizes that India has the potential to transform the Indo-Pacific region and is an important partner when it comes to competing effectively with China. PM Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron addressed the AI Action Summit and the 14th India-France CEOs Forum in Paris. PM Modi said that the AI Action Summit in Paris is a commendable effort to bring together world leaders, policymakers, thinkers, innovators, and youngsters to have meaningful conversations around AI. Speaking at the event, Mr. Modi said, "This is more than just a business event. It is a convergence of the brightest minds from India and France. You are embracing the mantra of innovation, collaboration, and elevation, driving progress with purpose. Beyond forging boardroom connections, you are actively reinforcing the strategic partnership between India and France." Saying that the world is at the dawn of the artificial intelligence age, Mr. Modi called for collective efforts to establish a global framework for AI that upholds shared values, addresses risks, builds trust, and ensures access to all, especially the global south. Mr. Modi underlined the need for open source systems that enhance trust and transparency and building data sets free from biases. Addressing the summit, Modi said that AI can help transform millions of lives by improving health, education, agriculture, and so much more. It can help create a world in which the journey to sustainable development goals becomes easier and faster. Addressing concerns on the impact on jobs, he said, "Loss of jobs is AI's most feared disruption. But history has shown that work does not disappear due to technology. Its nature changes and new types of jobs are created. We need to invest in skilling and reskilling our people for an AI-driven future." On the sidelines of the summit, he also met UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. During the summit, Mr. Modi also offered to host the next summit in India. Modi also met US Vice President J.D. Vance and his Indian-American wife Usha Vance on the sidelines of the AI summit. Modi said in a post on X in which he shared some photos with Vance and his family. "Had a wonderful meeting with US VP J.D. Vance and his family. We had a great conversation on various subjects. Delighted to join them in celebrating the joyous birthday of their son Vivek." Later, India and France announced that they would continue to work closely to implement the India-Middle East-Europe Corridor, the IMEC project. The project proposes to connect India to Europe through sea and land routes.
We move now to the island of Santorini, which is a Greek island and a popular tourist hotspot. But over the past week, it has witnessed a mass exodus of tourists and residents due to a veritable seismic swarm. Well, that's what it's being called now, since nearly 8,000 earthquakes have rattled the island over the past week. The biggest quake so far that has rocked Santorini has reached a magnitude of 5.2, and the authorities have declared an emergency. The government is also scrambling to prepare for the worst. We bring you this report.
Earthquake fears have prompted people to flee Santorini as Greece's most popular island destination continues to be hit by what scientists described as a barrage of tremors. With authorities on heightened alert amid mounting concerns of an impending natural disaster, residents, tourists, and workers are scrambling to leave the island on ferries and planes. By midday on Monday, Aegean Airlines, the national carrier, had announced it was doubling the number of flights from Athens to Santorini for the next 2 days, as travel agents said the new flights were sold out within seconds. More than 200 undersea tremors shook the island over the weekend, most in waters between Santorini and Amorgos, the Cyclades' easternmost isle, with scores of fresh overnight earthquakes, prompting people to sleep outside or in their cars. "I cried all night because I was very afraid and didn't know what to do." A Mexican tourist on a 2-day visit to Santorini was quoted as telling the Greek daily Protothema, "We felt that the ground wasn't at all stable. We were all saying we should stay calm, but how can you be calm when the ground is shaking again and again?" On Monday, an earthquake measuring 4.8 on the Richter scale, the most powerful yet, was registered at 2:17 p.m. local time. Land and rock slides were also recorded. The hundreds of tremors have rattled this Greek island and turned its photogenic villages into ghost towns. Greek authorities have declared a state of emergency in Santorini. The barrage of quakes haven't caused too much damage, but they have shut schools on the resort island and fueled a mass exodus of people, tourists, seasonal workers, and residents who are all leaving on ferries and planes. About 3/4 of the island's 15,000 population have evacuated so far. Emergency medical crews continued to arrive on the island on Monday, joining special forces, rescue teams, and drone handlers who had already been dispatched. Officials have not ruled out the army being sent in. In the event of a tsunami, inhabitants have been told to head to elevated areas inland, where rescue workers have established a staging area, pitching tents in a basketball court close to the island's main hospital. The Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has visited the quake-struck island. He has imposed more precautionary measures and announced a $3 million package to construct an emergency evacuation route. Greece sits on multiple fault lines and is often rattled by earthquakes. Research has shown the crust under the seas around Santorini to be a highly active seismic zone.
In other news, the Donald Trump administration, prioritizing an anti-immigrant agenda since the president's return to office, has already sent military aircraft with illegal immigrants to various countries such as Guatemala, Peru, Honduras, Ecuador, Colombia, and now India. US officials kept around 100 deported Indian migrants in shackles for their 40-hour flight home, including during bathroom breaks, in the latest incident to spark anger overseas at President Donald Trump's migration crackdown. Indian lawmakers demonstrated outside Parliament on Thursday, some wearing shackles and others mocking the much-touted friendship between Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Elsewhere in New Delhi, members of the youth wing of India's main opposition party burned an effigy of Trump in protest. We bring you this report.
Last month, the spectacle of Colombian deportees being shackled as they boarded a US deportation flight sparked a bitter dispute between the two countries, with Colombian President Gustavo Petro initially refusing the military plane permission to land. The anger in India comes days ahead of an expected visit by Modi to meet Trump, whom he has called a true friend, at the White House. S. Kuldeep Singh Dalewal, a government minister in the western state of Punjab, where the deportation flight landed, urged Modi to now use his friendship to resolve the issue. Dalewal also questioned the usefulness of this friendship if it cannot help Indian citizens in need, his office said in a statement. The flight to India was the longest in distance since the Trump administration began deploying military aircraft for migrant deportations, according to a US official. Our hands were cuffed and ankles tied with chains before we took the flight, said 23-year-old Akash Deep Singh, who arrived in Punjab with 103 other deportees. US Border Patrol Chief Michael W. Banks posted a video of the Indian deportees being put onto a plane on X. In the video, shackles are seen on the wrists and ankles of several men who shuffle slowly up the ramp. Young Indians looking for work opportunities have made up a sizable portion of undocumented migrants in the US, many after making the dangerous trek through Latin America to reach the US southern border. Many say they see no future at home, where a jobs crisis is stifling young hopes in the world's most populous country. In just 4 years, the number of Indian citizens entering the US illegally has surged dramatically from 8,027 in the 2018-19 fiscal year to 96,917 during 2022-23, government data showed. Families have previously narrated how they sold off land to raise the tens of thousands of dollars charged by the travel agents to take migrants on the risky journey to the US.
We move now to the Vatican, where Pope Francis met a group of people from Ukraine. We have already seen how committed Pope Francis has been in his support to the suffering Ukrainian people. The Holy Father has always referred to Ukraine as the martyred Ukraine. He had earlier sent the Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Parolin, to Ukraine amid the Holy See's unwavering hopes for a rapid end of the war with Russia and a just peace.
These 7 girls have lost their parents in the war in Ukraine. They are aged between 6 and 19 years old and are from Kharkiv. One of them, Veronica, almost died when a fragment of a Russian bomb nearly pierced her heart. This is a scar left by the attack. She gave the Pope a doll she made in a bunker. It is embedded with a splinter that almost took her life. The young woman survived the attack thanks to the care she received in Milan through the mediation of Cardinal Zuppi, the Pope's special envoy for Ukraine. The tender moment, the message of this girl.
Papa Francesco, tu sei il nostro nonno di tutti noi, proteggiti. Se puoi ferma questa guerra, ti voglio tanto bene.
Che brava.
The meeting took place thanks to the Living Memory Association, which seeks to bring the testimonies of people who have lived through the horrors of conflict closer to young people.
Thanks so much for watching. Until we meet next time, stay blessed.